Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Word of God channel. Today, I invite you to listen to Story 9, The Promise of the Lineage and the Promised Land. First, please share, like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you everyone. Long after Abraham had answered the divine call, settled in the land promised by God, and walked faithfully in obedience, the story of his family continued, a story of faith, hope, and divine promise stretching across generations. Abraham had waited patiently, trusting in God's covenant, yet the promise of a child, a son through whom the lineage would flourish, remained unseen. Days turned into years, seasons changed, and yet Abraham and Sarah's hearts remained steadfast, rooted in faith and expectation. In the quiet of their tent, Abraham often gazed at the night sky, recalling the words God had spoken. "Look at the heavens and count the stars. If you can, so shall your descendants be." The stars sparkled, countless and eternal, each one a silent witness to the promise that would shape not only Abraham's life but the destiny of nations yet unborn. Despite the weight of age and the seeming impossibility of Sarah bearing a child, Abraham's faith did not waver. He knew that the promise of God was beyond human limitation, transcending time, logic, and natural law. Sarah, too, shared in this profound hope. Her heart carried both longing and reverence, a desire for the fulfillment of God's covenant and the wisdom to trust in divine timing. They walked together through fertile fields and arid plains, tending flocks, nurturing their household, and living in harmony with the land, all the while feeling the invisible presence of God guiding their steps. Each sunrise brought not only the light of a new day but also the quiet reminder that the promise remained alive. Even when unseen, the land itself seemed to respond to the faith of Abraham and Sarah. Rolling hills and flowing rivers whispered of abundance. Fields glimmered with green and gold, and the gentle breeze carried with it a sense of anticipation, as if nature itself held its breath in expectation of what was to come. Abraham would often stand atop a hill at dawn, surveying the expanse of their land, and imagine the generations of descendants who would one day walk these very paths, honoring the covenant and flourishing under God's blessing. Yet the promise was not only about descendants, it was about a sacred land, a home for Abraham's people, a foundation for a nation. This land was to be fertile, abundant, and rich with opportunity, a place where faith, justice, and community could take root and flourish. But the land also demanded faith and courage. Its mountains, rivers, and valleys were both beautiful and challenging, a testament to God's design, that a life of promise is intertwined with effort, responsibility, and trust. It was in this setting of quiet hope and divine expectation that God spoke again to Abraham. As he had many times before, the voice was both commanding and gentle, resonating with authority and love. "Abraham, I am your shield and your reward. Look to the heavens and the land before you. Your descendants will be as numerous as the stars, and this land will be theirs. Through your lineage, all nations shall be blessed, and my covenant will endure forever." Abraham felt awe and reverence rise in his heart. He fell to his knees, gazing at the horizon where the sky kissed the earth, feeling the weight and wonder of a promise that stretched far beyond his own life. It was a promise that required patience, faith, and obedience, a covenant that would demand trust in unseen pathways, courage to face trials, and a steadfast heart that never wavered in hope. Thus began the unfolding story of God's promise to Abraham, a story of enduring faith, miraculous fulfillment, and the shaping of a people destined for a land prepared by divine providence. Each step Abraham took, each choice he made, was part of a grander plan, intricately woven by God, stretching across generations, linking past, present, and future in a tapestry of promise, hope, and unwavering trust. Abraham's life had become a journey of unwavering faith, yet the promise of descendants and the land God had spoken of continued to challenge both his patience and understanding. Time passed slowly. Abraham and Sarah grew older, yet God's words remained vivid in Abraham's heart, a guiding light amidst the uncertainties of life. Every sunrise seemed to whisper hope, and every star-filled night sky echoed God's eternal promise. The years of waiting were filled with both ordinary tasks and extraordinary tests. Abraham tended to his flocks and household with care, managing the responsibilities of a growing people, yet the longing for a child, a continuation of God's covenant, pressed heavily on his spirit. Sarah, too, carried this desire quietly, her heart oscillating between hope and despair. But through it all, their faith remained anchored, They prayed, sought counsel from God, and supported each other, trusting that divine timing was perfect even when human understanding faltered. Then came a moment that changed the course of their lives forever. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the desert horizon glowed like molten gold, Abraham sat outside his tent, gazing at the stars. The familiar voice of God broke the quiet, tender yet commanding. Abraham, Sarah shall bear a son. You shall name him Isaac. Through him, my covenant will be fulfilled. Look to the heavens. Your descendants shall be countless as the stars. I will bless them, and through them, all nations shall be blessed. Abraham's heart swelled with awe and disbelief. He knew the years that had passed, the physical impossibility of Sarah bearing a child at her advanced age. Yet the certainty in God's voice left no room for doubt. Sarah overheard the message and laughed softly, not in mockery, but in astonishment at the miracle promised. Age and impossibility faded before the power of divine will. The journey toward Isaac's birth, however, was not without trials. Abraham and Sarah faced skepticism from neighbors, hostility from rival tribes, and the internal challenge of sustaining hope in the face of human limitations. Abraham's faith was tested at every step. He prayed for guidance, sought counsel from God, and taught his household to trust in the unseen, to believe in the promises that transcended human logic. At the appointed time, the miracle occurred. Sarah gave birth to Isaac, a child of promise, whose very name meant laughter. Reflecting the joy and astonishment that filled their hearts, the tent became alive with celebration, songs of gratitude, and prayers of thanksgiving. Isaac's cries were not just those of a newborn but of a covenant renewed, a tangible sign that God's promise was unfolding. Abraham held Isaac close, tears of joy streaming down his face, as he recognized that the long years of waiting, of faith tested and strengthened, had culminated in this moment of divine fulfillment. Yet the story of Abraham and Isaac was far more than a tale of miraculous birth. It was a narrative of obedience, trust, and the unfolding of God's plan. God's covenant was not merely about a son, it was about a lineage, a nation, and the land that would become the foundation of faith for generations to come. Abraham knew that Isaac's life was intertwined with the destiny of the promised land, a land flowing with blessings, yet requiring stewardship, justice, and reverence for God's commands. The tests of faith did not end with Isaac's birth. God called Abraham once again, instructing him to take Isaac to the land of Moriah, to offer him as a sacrifice. The request shook Abraham to his core. A father's love, a covenant's promise, and the call of God converged in a moment of profound tension. Abraham rose early the next morning, preparing for the journey. Isaac, unaware of the trial, followed his father faithfully, carrying wood for the altar with trust in his heart. Abraham's steps were heavy, yet unwavering. Each step was a testament to his faith, a demonstration of obedience that transcended fear and human reasoning. The climb to Moriah was arduous. Abraham's heart wrestled with anguish and submission. Thoughts of Isaac's life, his laughter, and the covenant intertwined with his emotions. Yet Abraham continued, driven by trust in God's plan. Upon reaching the appointed place, Abraham built the altar, laid the wood, and bound Isaac, ready to fulfill the command. The tension was palpable, a moment suspended between obedience and mercy, faith and fear. At the climax, God's voice intervened once more. Abraham, do not harm the boy. Now I know your heart is true, that you fear me, and that your obedience is complete. A ram appeared, caught in the thicket, and Abraham sacrificed it instead. Tears of relief and gratitude streamed down his face as he embraced Isaac. The covenant was confirmed, the promise solidified. Abraham's descendants would be numerous, and the land that God had promised would indeed be theirs. The trial had tested the depth of Abraham's faith and revealed the power of obedience, trust, and divine providence. In the following years, Abraham's family grew. Isaac became the symbol of God's faithfulness, a living testament to the fulfillment of promises made centuries before. Abraham continued to walk in obedience, tending the land, guiding his household, and nurturing faith in all generations. Every sunrise and every starry night reminded him of the covenant, a promise that stretched beyond his lifetime, shaping nations, guiding future leaders, and inspiring countless souls to trust in God's wisdom. The land itself, fertile and abundant, became a home not only for Abraham's family but for the unfolding of a divine plan that would extend through centuries. Abraham's journey, from the call to leave Ur, to the trials of faith, to the miraculous birth of Isaac, and finally to the test on Moriah, formed a narrative of unwavering trust, divine fidelity, and the extraordinary power of promises kept. Each event, each challenge, each moment of doubt and hope was a stepping stone toward the realization of God's plan, a plan that combined faith, courage, and obedience to create a lineage and a land blessed beyond measure. The story of Abraham, Isaac, and the promise of descendants is more than a tale of ancient times. It is a timeless lesson in faith, trust, and obedience. Abraham's life teaches that true faith requires action. It is not simply believing in a promise but stepping into the unknown, leaving behind comfort and familiarity, and trusting that God's plan will unfold perfectly, even when the path is uncertain. Abraham's journey shows that faith often demands courage, perseverance, and patience, especially when promises seem delayed or impossible from a human perspective. One of the most profound lessons is the importance of obedience to God's call. Abraham did not question the voice that directed him to leave Ur, nor did he hesitate when asked to trust in the promise of a son in a land he had never seen. His willingness to act according to God's guidance, despite fear and uncertainty, demonstrates that obedience is a cornerstone of a life aligned with divine purpose. True faith is measured not by words alone, but by the courage to act in harmony with God's will. The story also emphasizes the power of hope and patience. Abraham and Sarah waited many years for the fulfillment of God's promise, enduring doubts, societal pressures, and the natural limitations of age, yet their hope never waned. Through their persistence and trust, the promise was realized, showing that God's timing may differ from human expectations, but it is always perfect. Patience, coupled with unwavering faith, prepares hearts to receive blessings in their fullness. Furthermore, Abraham's experiences highlight the eternal significance of God's covenant. The promise of descendants and the land is not merely a reward for obedience, it is a foundation for future generations. Through Abraham's lineage, nations would be blessed, and the story of faith would ripple across centuries. This teaches that individual choices and acts of faith can have profound and lasting impacts far beyond oneself, shaping the destiny of families, communities, and even entire nations. Finally, the narrative reminds us that trust in God transforms trials into triumphs. From leaving Ur, to trusting in a miraculous birth, to the ultimate test on Mount Moriah, Abraham's journey was filled with challenges. Yet each challenge deepened his faith, strengthened his character, and revealed the power of God's guidance. Life may present trials that seem overwhelming, but faith, obedience, and trust turn them into opportunities for growth, blessing, and fulfillment of divine promises. In essence, the story of Abraham and the Promised Land is a beacon of hope, courage, and faith. It teaches that with trust in God, steadfast patience, and wholehearted obedience, even the most daunting promises can be fulfilled, shaping not only our lives but the lives of generations to come. Next video, I invite you to listen to Story 10, Abraham and Isaac, the Test of Faith. Please share, like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you everyone.
Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe to the channel to watch the next video.